Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
I would like to thank you immensely for coming over, sir. Today, I have Dr. Debesh Roy with me, and he's a veteran in his own field. And I would request him to introduce himself the way he wants to. Over to you, sir. Dr. Debesh Roy.
I am an economist and development professional with over 38 years of experience. I founded the Institute for Pioneering Insightful Research Private Limited, Inspire, with my daughter in 2021. My daughter, Bijitri Roy, I'm the chairman of the company and she's the MD. And it is a policy research and consulting firm and registered as a startup company. And Inspire is dedicated to conducting cutting edge policy research and providing strategic consultancy services. And personally, I have also been invited to deliver lectures at different prominent institutions like Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, to deliver lectures on policy, on public policy. And Inspire also works closely with mainly with government organizations, private institutions, academic institutions, and industry bodies like, for example, ASSOCHAM or Indian Chamber of Commerce to promote evidence-based policy making and strategic dialogue. And before I started Inspire, I worked with NABARD for 32 years, working in different parts of the country, and I looked after various kinds of assignments, like, for example, rural infrastructure finance, institutional development of regional rural banks and cooperatives, policy research in agriculture, rural finance, and sustainability. So, briefly, this is all about me.
Wonderful, wonderful. Economics. Okay, that really takes me back to my college days. We used to have micro and macro economics. I'm a Bombayite, I live in Kolkata now, but I know how tough the subject is and how deep the subject is, especially in today's context. So, to begin with, sir, I wanted to understand what role do you think policy research consulting firms play in the economic development of the country?
So, first of all, it is these institutions, like, for example, Inspire, you play an important bridging role between, say, research and policy implementation. And so, governments and various institutions, what they do is they require evidence-based policy. So, policy inputs, because based on evidence only, otherwise, without that, say, without basing on actual ground level issues, it's a challenge for any government to formulate policies. That is why evidence-based policy inputs is they are important for government as well as the corporate sector when they formulate policies. So that is why here the not only these institutions like Aspire, which is a consulting firm, and also there are the think tanks who do the similar roles. And as at Inspire, we particularly focus on areas like macroeconomic policy, agriculture, rural development, climate change, sustainability, financial inclusion, MSMEs, and trade competitiveness. So it's a multidisciplinary organization, and we try to convert research into actionable solutions for government, industry bodies, financial institutions, and all other clients. So basically, what it's important that, and apart from the research that we conduct, we also come out with, we also disseminate knowledge through our own publications.
In fact, I'm so glad that you mentioned about evidence based data or information or insights. You must be knowing that I'm a consumer insights practitioner and I've been working on consumer insights at different levels. So I'm sure you would also be using consumer insights at different levels, which would really act as evidences for the kind of work that you do at your level.
Actually, what we do, for example, or any study that we conduct, so we have quantitative research as well as qualitative research. So
Okay.
quantitative is the surveys that we conduct, and
Right.
qualitative is
Right.
when we talk to the stakeholders, like, for example, government officials or any stakeholder in that particular project who are in a senior position, so that we get feedback from them, and based on their feedback, we triangulate that with the field level data that we collect, plus secondary
Right.
data. So there is secondary data, the primary quantitative data, and the secondary and the primary qualitative data. So based on the on all these three, we come out with a report and findings. So qualitative
Right.
play a very important role in this regard.
Right, right. Glad to know that, sir. So, what are the major risks facing the global economy in the present context? How should India respond to this changing world order that's happening at the moment?
So, we know the global economy is currently facing multiple interconnected risks, and this for last several years has happened. So, these include
Mm-hmm.
geopolitical conflict. We know it's happening now. It's happening for the last several years in Ukraine, Russia, now in West Asia, Iran and US. This is a major geopolitical conflicts. Then there are the supply chain disruptions, and in fact, geopolitical conflicts also lead to these supply chain disruptions. In fact, the whole economy, global economy, is being affected. Then rising protectionism, that is another thing. In fact, last year, as you know, with Donald Trump coming to power,
Yeah.
how protectionism has risen. Debt, and there's debt vulnerabilities. Most of the countries are in high debts, including the US.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, India is better in this regard compared to the US and other countries. And then there are the climate shocks, which is very important, energy insecurity, and
Mm-hmm.
we are facing this problem with this Hormuz blockade and all. The energy
Right.
problem which India is facing, and we depend 95% of our fossil fuel energy from the West Asian region. So that's a major problem. And then there is the technological disruption through AIs,
Mm,
which is a good thing, but there are also other issues. So there's disruption which the whole global economy is facing. And
mm,
considering, and in terms of India's response, what we should do is first is to build resilience, competitiveness,
mm,
and strategic diversification. So India must strengthen domestic manufacturing. No, manufacturing sector has been lagging in India. If you compare India's growth with other countries, say for example the East Asian countries, South Korea or Taiwan, China, so these countries, they were mostly export oriented and manufacturing driven. But India was more focused on the services sector, IT sector, export of IT sector, etc. So India
mm,
needs to build up its manufacturing capabilities, competitive
mm,
manufacturing. In fact, the government policy of the PLI, that is production linked incentive, it is definitely a good policy which promotes efficiency in manufacturing. So, and apart from that, to be a manufacturing powerhouse and to be part of the global value chain and to be competitive. So India has been signing FTAs, free trade agreements, with various economies, like for instance, recently with EU, UK, UAE, then New Zealand, Oman, and many others are in the offing. So these
mhm,
FTAs will definitely have the potential to make Indian exports more competitive. So
mm.
this is something which is happening, and certainly a good thing. And India
Okay.
is also
Okay.
uniquely positioned because it combines, one is demographic strength with a young
Mm,
population. Youth should not get wasted. They need to be educated.
right.
Skill development is important. Then we have digital public infrastructure, then entrepreneurial dynamism. We have big
Mm,
industries, big companies which are globally competitive. And also, India is also the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. So
mhm.
startups are doing well, and some of them have become unicorns, that is valued at more than $1 billion. So what is needed is to convert these advantages into sustained long-term growth.
I understand. This is pretty much encouraging, but I just wanted you to tell me how should India actually balance growth and sustainability in the present context, sir?
India is a developing economy. And
Mm-hmm.
we know that the countries which have been biggest emitters, like for example the developed countries, so for years they have emitted GSG gases. So when India has to develop, it has to balance between, one is development, another is sustainability. So
Right.
sustainability in the sense that we use efficiency of resources, resource use efficiency, that is important. And then energy, moving towards alternative energy, renewable energy. And in fact, India, as you must be aware, that or a couple of years back, that is in COP26, I think, the Prime Minister had announced that India is going to reach net zero in 2070. So we have
Right.
plans to reach net zero in 2070, and accordingly, our movement towards energy transition, it's going on, and we have achieved much more than which what we had targeted. So it's moving
Mm,
in right direction, but then we still have to depend on coal. A major
right.
portion of our energy requirement is from coal and other fossil fuel. So recently, there
Right.
has been a policy on coal gasification, which again is a better alternative to coal. So that is why
Okay.
there are various options now to move towards renewable energy. And in fact, we have another big goal of achieving the status of a developed economy by 2047.
Right.
So all these actions, whether it's sustainable growth, industrial development, and efficiency in resource use, and energy transition. So all these are they all needs to grow together to achieve this. Our ultimate goal of achieving developed status.
Efficient use of energy, alternate use of energy, it's conservation of energy. And I guess we've been hearing our Prime Minister talk about, getting back to work from home again, which of course was
Yes.
a big landmark, during the COVID days. Blessings
Yeah,
for
yeah,
some of
yeah.
us. I wanted to talk a little bit about the contribution that you have made, in an area of, in an era of information overload and fragmented economic commentary. We see social media, we see a lot of things everywhere. Now, you have quite a few knowledge platforms that you have created. By the knowledge platforms, I'm referring to the monthly journal Ecosphere. I'm referring to your weekly newsletter Weekend Macro by Inspire, and of course the YouTube channel Inspire, the economic edge. So I wanted to understand, what are you really looking at by having these?
Yes. So we first started with Ecosphere, a flagship monthly journal.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea was that as a knowledge company, we need to disseminate knowledge, share knowledge, and to make people understand, and also to create a position for ourselves that as a reliable knowledge institution. And that is why what we started with this Ecosphere, a monthly journal. We cover, for example, the developments in the Indian economy during the month, and it contained not just news but also analysis. And secondly, we covered global economy, the same thing with news and analysis, and then financial markets and climate change. So these are the four broad, sections in Ecosphere. So now, with recent discussions which I had with some of my friends and all who have been following me, following Ecosphere and all, so I wanted to know their feedback. So one feedback which I got was that since it's a monthly journal, so now in an era of internet and we have social media and all,
Yes.
so you get so much of information every day, every moment. So why not have something which has of a shorter, say, duration? So I came out with this weekly magazine called Weekend Macro by Inspire. So it contains
Okay.
crisp news items in similarly the same broad four areas with more of diagrams and all, so that it gives a better look and so that people can easily read. It's about 15 pages or so. So this is another effort on our part to come out with a newsletter. And with this, what I'm doing is change the format of Ecosphere a bit. I'm removing the news and only putting in analysis. News will be there in Weekend Macro, but in Ecosphere will have only the views analysis. Inspire Economic Edge, where I take up one issue. Of course, I think there are only about four episodes, but I plan to do
Okay.
it on a regular basis, maybe once or
Okay.
twice a month. So I'll do that, which I have my plans.
Okay.
So on a particular issue, I have covered analytically. I have addressed issues on, say, for example, the Indian economy or the budget, for instance. So taking up one particular issue, I have covered different episodes of Inspire Economic Edge. So I intend to
Great.
make it more frequent.
Brilliant. In fact, I have seen your posts on LinkedIn. I haven't gone through it honestly, but now talking to and understanding the importance of this, I'm sure, I'm going to go through it because this really takes me back, to my college days. And of course, this is what we all need to know all the more, in the present scenario. You did speak about ASOCHAM as well. And, you're actively involved with various national and state level development councils. Now, what kind of policy inputs do you intend to contribute in this financial year, 26-27? Because there has been a lot of political changes happening with reference to West Bengal as well. And I live in Kolkata. I'm just clubbing these two and wanting your views on these two.
Okay.
Very
Yes.
honestly, looking forward to this with excitement.
Actually, Associam has been a good forum for me, and they had
Mm-hmm.
invited me to the various councils, which I'm a member of different councils, a national level
Mm-hmm.
council as well as a few state government councils. So I intend to focus on policy inputs in areas like MSME, competitiveness, exports, They regularly come up with they write to us about various inputs they require on different on latest issues. Say, for example, the West Asia crisis. So we have
Hmm.
provided inputs to them. So similarly,
Okay.
it's a continuing process, says on climate finance, agriculture, food system. So
Hmm.
whatever comes,
Hmm.
whatever issues they come up, so I
Hmm.
believe with India needs a stronger coordination between industry, policymakers, academia, financial
Hmm.
institutions, these uh, industry chambers like ASSOCHAM, which play an important role. So it's important that we are part of it, part of the complete ecosystem to contribute towards policy formulation by the government. So whatever feedback we give to ASSOCHAM, for instance, they give it
Hmm.
to the government or say RBI
Okay.
or any other policy
I
institutions.
understand.
In a way, we are also contributing to that. In a way, we
Of
are
course.
contributing to policy. Coming to
Yes,
West
of
Bengal.
course. The most interesting thing.
Uh,
Yeah, please.
so I lived in West Bengal for about 7 years, 7, 8 years.
Lovely.
And West Bengal, as you know, was one of the leading industrialized states till the mid 1960s. But
Right,
unfortunately,
sir.
it's now among the less industrialized states. But with an industry friendly government in place, I am sure the
Hmm.
state will achieve rapid industrial development. So, West Bengal
Hmm.
has immense economic potential because of its strategic location, historical industrial base, strong human
Hmm.
capital, and connectivity with Southeast Asia and the larger Asia Pacific region.
Hmm.
However, the state needs a long-term growth strategy focused on industrial revival, investment
Hmm.
promotion, logistics,
Hmm.
MSMEs,
Hmm.
tourism,
Hmm.
agriculture
Hmm.
value
Hmm.
chains, urban infrastructure. So the state can become a major hub for Eastern India for manufacturing, services economy, especially the IT sector, research and development, the
Right.
global capability centers, instead of just the, what is that, IT BPOs and all. So no, those
Right.
are very basic. Now, instead of that, moving
Basic.
ahead,
Yeah.
moving forward towards GCCs, which are, innovation centers. So that is
Right.
what is needed. Then strengthening industrial corridors,
Hmm.
improving ease of doing business,
Hmm.
enhancing skill development for both white and blue collar jobs, and
Right.
promoting innovation ecosystem. So as
Hmm.
and the ecosystem needs to be created, which will prevent. Now, West Bengal has been seeing brain drain. Now, all the bright people they move out to other parts of the country, say Bangalore or even our NCR region, and also abroad, of course.
Of
So
course.
that
Yeah.
needs to be checked because you need now good people to stay back to contribute to the development of West Bengal's economy. The state was once
Right.
upon a time an automobile hub, like for example
Hmm.
Hindustan Motors and ancillaries like Dunlop. So West
Hmm.
Bengal can once again be developed into an automobile hub.
Hmm.
Then of course there's agriculture, rural enterprise
Hmm.
development, which has enormous
Hmm.
opportunities, particularly food processing, fisheries,
Hmm.
horticulture,
Hmm.
and exports of these
Hmm.
commodities. Then
Hmm.
food processing hubs also could be developed across the state, and also there needs to be a special focus on North Bengal, which has been a neglected area. So North
Hmm.
Bengal has huge potential. Of course, there is the Siliguri region, which is a commercial hub, but that needs to be
Right.
developed into a food processing hub or export hub. So for that, you need to develop, say, what I was thinking of, say, Bagdogra Airport, which is a very small airport. So we
Right.
need an international airport which can cater to the markets in Southeast Asia or other Asia Pacific region apart from Kolkata. That
Right.
is which I had in my mind. So is uniquely positioned in terms of tourism industry. That has huge potential.
Hmm.
So it is the
Hmm.
only state where you have the Himalayas and then the sea
Hmm.
at the south, North
Hmm.
Himalayas, and the
Yeah.
Doors, the Sundarbans. Then you have various places of religious importance. Then you have this Ganga Sagar Mela. So all these things. So you need infrastructure, which is lacking. What is needed is tourism infrastructure, like for example, good roads, connectivity, development of existing airports, as I said,
Hmm.
and as well as greenfield airports and high-speed rail, expressways, highways, rural roads. That is very important,
Hmm.
and rural
Hmm.
connectivity. So development, hotels,
Hmm.
resorts, so whole, where the government as well as private sector need to play an important role.
Hmm.
So, with ease of doing business, with government coming up with different policy initiatives for this, so private sector will feel, the urge to come with some investments. So, over the last several years, investments from big industries has been lacking. So that needs to be invited. So that's why
Hmm.
this is what I was thinking that development of all these things. And so the next decade could be transformational. That policy stability is important, ease of doing business, and investment confidence, these are strengthened.
Right. Yeah, even we are looking forward to much better Bengal in the coming days. And we can also sense it, in the beginning itself. And talking to consumers, I personally feel, that, I mean, still we have the kind of brain, the kind of intelligence, the kind of creativity that rarely people have in India.
I think it's the quality of education should improve. That has
Yeah.
deteriorated in
Yeah.
West Bengal.
Yeah.
And all the there's so many premier institutions, Presidency University, Xavier's, Calcutta University. So I think that these institutions need to be developed. Of course, Calcutta always already has IIM and then this IIT. So all these
Yes.
institutions need to be developed further, and so that education is important. And of course, spread education across the state. There must be
Right.
good institutions across the state. So this is very important. Human
Right.
development is the most important thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think human development and the development of mindsets would ultimately lead to the development of the state as well. I just wanted to check one more thing with you. What is your broader vision for Inspire over the next few years?
So our vision is to build Inspire into a nationally respected and globally connected institution. We have big aims, and I think it's important that we must have big ambition that combines policy research, strategic advisory services, executive education, and knowledge dissemination. So we need to improve upon that. We need to spread, we need to work with various institutions within the country and abroad. So we want Inspire to become a credible platform for that bridges research, policy, industry, and implementation. So over the next few years, we aim to deepen our work into more areas like, for example, Industry 5.0, climate policy, agriculture, rural transformation, financial inclusion, MSME, competitiveness. So everything, all sectors of the economy we would like to focus on. And of course, sustainability and climate change. Climate issues are important and will remain important for several years. And there are issues like, for example, the US, which is no longer interested in climate policy. So these are things where India can take a lead role, and we Inspire as an institution, we can provide policy inputs. We also want to expand our executive education initiatives, strengthen collaboration with different institutions, national and international, and contribute meaningfully to India's long-term development journey.
Right, right. Thank you so much for the time you have given. And I know this was very serious talk, and I'm sure the viewers would enjoy listening to this podcast when we actually have this released.
It's indeed a pleasure to be with you, and it was for me a learning experience as well. Because whatever I've said, I've it was my thought process, my learnings, so that so every day for me is a learning experience, and this is exactly what this podcast has done to me as well.
Yeah, in fact,
Thank
this
you
was
very
an
much.
experiment I wanted to do and have been doing, and it's been really a pleasure having you here. Thank you. Thank you so much.